Hi, everyone. I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about mental health and leave you with 3 biblical prescriptions that I know will help you. Hi, for those who haven't met me, I'm Dr. James Marcum, and I want to thank you so much for joining us on this YouTube channel. And I want to encourage you to invite your friends and neighbors because we're growing. And our goal is simple. We want to have a community that loves each other, that supports each other, that cares for each other. And please leave comments and suggestions below where we can know how you're feeling and thinking about these things. But today I want to leave you with 3 biblical prescriptions that you can use to help your mental health. I know in this pandemic that we've been through and in life, there can be lots of anxiety, lots of fear, lots of depression. Everyone's going through a lot this year. And they've looked at the statistics, and over the last year, we've had more problems with anxiety, suicides, depression than we've ever had before. So I think it's a good idea that we talk about some biblical prescriptions that will help us. Remember, a biblical prescription helps the whole body. We call this holism. It helps many different chemical pathways in the body. Whereas a prescription medicine, we call that reductionism. For instance, medications might change one specific pathway, but it doesn't change lots of pathways throughout the body. So biblical prescriptions really are more holistic. Some people do have genetic problems and need prescription medications, but we want to always try to change our physiology with biblical prescriptions if it's possible. And sometimes these different prescriptions or treatments can work together. But I hope you haven't suffered from anxiety and mental health, but I'm going to leave you 3 biblical prescriptions. And the first one is Psalms 19, verse 1. Psalms 19, verse 1. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork." Well, whenever we see the glory of God, how beautiful he is, we see the heavens, we see the earth and how beautiful it is. It does something for us chemically. Remember, we were designed to be outdoors and not indoors. So let's talk a little bit about how our physiology changes when we're out of doors, when we see the glory of God, when we see the beauty, his creation, when we're outdoors. Just being outdoors helps us get fresh air, helps our oxygenation through the whole body. It also helps us with vitamin D. Everyone's heard about vitamin D. Vitamin D is needed to help eventually make a chemical in our brain called serotonin. When people are outdoors, they tend to move more. Moving more helps the circulation, more oxygen, more blood, better supply of nutrients to the brain. But one of the things it does when we're outdoors, we see the beauty of God, these awe-inspiring things, whether it be a sunset, whether it be the ocean. Well, when we ever see his beautiful handiwork, we see the glory of God. And when we appreciate the glory of God and come into his presence, there's something very special that's done in our physiology. We, through going outside and appreciating nature, we can see his handiwork. We can become close to God. We can come into a state of worship. We know when we worship God, our chemistry changes. There's been several studies that have been done that shows the part of the brain, the anterior cingulate cortex, the God brain changes. Less stress, better immune system, lowers blood pressure. We tend to have deeper breathing. We relax. When we go out in nature, we might touch nature. We know that people that garden, that go on walks. I've heard of some people that get really depressed and feel terrible, that they just go out in nature and have these big walkabouts where they just go and hike a trail, or they spend a large amount of time outdoors. Well, not only do you connect with nature, but this also gives you a chance to connect with your Creator in different ways. So it's very important for our mental health, a biblical prescription. If you're having problems with anxiety, if you're having problems with depression, get outdoors. See God's beauty. Now, what does that look like? Well, for some people, it might be taking a walk. For some people, it might be going on vacation. For some people, it might be walking on a trail or riding a bike or going on a canoe or walking in a garden, a botanical garden, or going to the zoo. For some of us, it might just be going outside and watching a sunrise or a sunset, or it might be going to the ocean, or it might be listening to a brook, or some way we can connect with God's creation. Unfortunately, some of us might not be able to go outside at all. Well, we can still visualize things. Can you think about what it would be like to see a sunset? We could get a picture of a sunset, or you could go somewhere on the internet and see something that's beautiful. The Grand Canyon, waterfalls, great beauty, mountains, beautiful things that God made. When we do this, there's a physical change in our body. It also can bring us closer to God. It can also be an act of worship. So I want you to remember that text, Psalms 19:1, and make ways to be outside or to appreciate the beauty that God's made. It's a biblical prescription, something holistic that will change your entire chemistry. Make a plan to do this. Remember, God created Adam and Eve, and they were in a great garden, so they got to experience this all the time. For much of Earth's history, we didn't stay much time indoors. We were outdoors all the time. And when we do this, there's physiologic changes that help our mental status. So that's number one biblical prescription. Well, what's number two? The second biblical prescription. And I want to have us turn to John, and that's in the New Testament, one of the Gospels, John 4, verse 10. And I'm going to flip there to that, and you can turn there with me. John 4, verse 10. And that text is a text that Christ said himself. Jesus answered and said to her, the woman at the well, if you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. So the second biblical prescription I want to give you is water. Remember, when we come to Christ in worship, that's the living water, but we also need physical water. No matter what season it is, the brain, mental health does good when we're hydrated. Well, it's been estimated that up to 70% of our brain is water. We don't get enough water, it puts stress on our brains, we get dehydrated. It also stresses out the rest of the body, and when our body's under stress, guess what? Inflammation occurs, the stress chemistries turn on, we just don't feel as good, we don't breathe as well, our brain is affected. Remember, the whole body is interconnected. So something as simple as water can help our bodies tremendously. But I also want you to remember in this text, not only physical water, which continues to keep us alive, but living water. Remember, the physical water helps our body, but the living water, Jesus, that also helps our body. And in this text, John 4:10, it says, it is he who says to you, give me a drink. That's Christ saying, you would have asked him, and he would have given you not more than the physical water, but by being with him, by being with Christ, you can have living water. So in helping your mental health, we want the physical water, we want the living water. Now, what does that look like in your life? Well, it might be simple as getting a drink of water every morning before you brush your teeth, before you eat a meal. It might be drinking water instead of soda pop. It might be just consciously making sure you're hydrated. Well, you want to drink enough water till your urine comes out clear. But as you drink the physical water, spend a second to remember the living water. Have I connected with the living water today? Have I worshiped today? Have I asked Christ to help me with all of my problems, whether it be anxiety or depression? Have I asked God to help my brain do better? Have I asked God to find the other things that he can give me that I can improve my brain health? And he might lead you to things like walnuts and almonds or blueberries or better diet. He might lead you to turning off media or focusing on positive things and not negative things. Remember, every input affects our brains. And this living water can give you power to see the things and the inputs you need to do to change your entire physiology. Number 1 prescription, being outside. Number 2 prescription, water and living water. And now let's look at prescription number 3. And we're going to the Proverbs for that. Proverbs 16, verses 20. So the third biblical prescription I'd like to leave with you today is one of happiness. You know, in this world that we're in, a lot of people are pretty tight. They're uptight. They're not happy. Well, it's okay to laugh. It's okay to focus on happy things. It's okay to do things that are fun. It's okay to see the lighter side in life. It's okay to belly laugh. Well, in Proverbs 16:20, it's another biblical prescription, and it says this: "He who heeds the word wisely will find good, and whoever trusts in the Lord, happy is he." It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be giddy and laugh all the time, even though that helps us make a chemical called endorphins. But when we trust in the Lord, when we worship Him, when we realize that the trials of this world, including anxiety and depression and fear, well, when we trust in the Lord, guess what? He promises that we would happy as He. He would give us a place inside where we know that even though we face trials, sometimes He allows our trials, including problems with mental health, to make us stronger, to encourage that relationship, because God sees us forever, not just for the here and now. So many of us battle with mental health, but these are some things that we can do, biblical prescriptions, and when we're outside, we have physiologic changes. When we drink water, we also can improve our body. When we're happy and see the good side of things, and when we trust in God, and we have that peace that comes from that relationship, we have true joy inside. And also, getting back to happiness, one thing that helps me, and you might want to try this, is, sometimes when you're feeling bad, you might be a little depressed, might be a little unhappy. Just find something funny to laugh at. Or some people just laugh at themselves. Just laughing out loud in itself creates chemistry, endorphins that are good for you. So even if you don't have anything that's funny, just occasionally go through the motion. Just by hearing other people laugh, you might laugh, you might be more happy. But when you have that laugh or that focus on being happy, I want you to also remember this text. Whoever trusts the Lord, that's where true happiness and true joy can be in forever. So we don't have to depend on everything else that's going on. So when we think about depression and anxiety and all the mental health problems we've had, focus on these 3 things, and hopefully through worship and through this relationship with God, He'll help you find other physiologic things that you can do to improve your mental health. Thanks for joining me today. And I want to share with you some other resources. If you're interested in worship, we have a worship app that you can come to and look at. We want to stay involved in you in community where we can pray for you and be with you and encourage you. And we want to invite you to leave comments, let other people know that you're praying for them, that we're pulling together as a Christian believers, and that we want to continue to have God leading us as we search for biblical prescriptions for life.